Hello and welcome back to the Arcade Repair Tips video series. Today we're going to be working on a multi-cade game that has a 60-in-1 board in it. Now we got this call from our client saying that there was something wrong with the game when he turned it on. So we're going to go ahead and turn it on real quick and we're going to see what's going on. Okay, now as soon as we turn the game on, we know that the marquee's lighting up, so we're probably getting our AC voltage okay. I can hear the fan inside turning, so it does sound like we've got some fan going on. However, we're not getting anything on the screen. Usually with 60-in-1 boards, you're going to get some sort of, boot up sequence or initializing system, and it'll have a countdown. Unfortunately, we're not getting any of that on the screen, so at this point, we probably think it's either the board or it could be the monitor. And so we're going to give it a little bit, we'll let it boot up, and we'll see what happens. Now, it could be one of those parts, could be the power supply too, because just because we're getting the AC voltage doesn't necessarily mean we're getting the DC voltage. So what we're going to do is I'm going to open up the inside and just check the board to see if the lights are on. So when we look in the arcade cabinet here, we do see the 60-in-1 board, and we do see some lights on the board. I'm not sure what the lights mean, I don't have enough knowledge to know for sure. I'm sure we could look those up. But we are getting lights on the board, which means we are probably getting something from our power supply. Now, we're not really sure exactly what, but it's enough to power the LEDs on the board. Now, we've given our game a little bit to boot up here, so we're going to go ahead, come back up to the top, and let's see if we can get it started. So at this point, we have given the game a lot of time to boot, but we're still getting nothing on the screen. Now we still need to know whether or not we have a board or monitor issue. We're pretty sure the power supply is okay since we're getting the LEDs on the board. So what you can do with 60-in-1 boards is that they have a VGA port on them. So we're going to hook up a regular computer monitor to the board and we're going to see if it actually displays anything on the screen at this point. So I'm going to turn the game off, hook up that monitor, flip the dip switch, there is a dip switch involved, and then we'll see if we get anything on the computer monitor now. So here you can see that we actually have hooked up this computer monitor to the 60-in-1 board. Now what we've also done is we've flipped switch 2 to the on position, which should allow the board to output VGA. That's very important because if you leave it in the off position, it'll still think it's going to the arcade monitor. So we've hooked it up. Let's turn it on real quick and see if we get anything on the screen. Okay, so it doesn't look like anything's coming up. We'll give it a little bit, just a little bit to kind of settle and see if anything comes up. The fact that we still have a yellow light on our monitor is not a good sign though. Probably means that we are having some board issues. Now, of course, you do want to double check your power supply here, like we mentioned before, but the fact that we have LED lights is a good sign. But when we did check the power supply, it came out to about 5.12 on the 5 volts line, which is fine. And so, we're probably thinking at this point that we have a bad board. Now, we could have a bad monitor, but I noticed when we went to turn it off that the monitor did kind of do what we call like a screen pop. Basically, we saw like a little burst of white when it came on, and then a little closing white whenever it went off. And so at this point, we're probably thinking that the monitor might be okay, but we're definitely having problems with our 60-in-1 board. Now, we kind of anticipated this because we came out here to do some pre-troubleshooting, and so I've already ordered another board, but this particular customer, he didn't want another 60-in-1. He wanted to go with the 412-in-1. So we're going to talk about how to convert this 60-in-1 to a 412-in-1 using that Game Elf board that's become so popular. So stay tuned, we'll be right back and we'll show the setup of the 412-in-1 board. Okay guys, well we got the 412-in-1 vertical board installed and we're just about ready to turn on the game. But I wanted to point out just a couple of things real quick just to make sure that when you guys did this install, you know what you're doing. In the manual for the Game Elf board, the 412-in-1 board, on the JAMMA wiring map, it actually says here, do not connect the pin 27 of the JAMMA port to the ground lead. It will affect the game's playing, okay? Well, that's a little bit of English, but what it basically means is we don't want to have pin 27 connected to ground, which is the default JAMMA wiring standard, and a lot of 60-in-1s use that wiring standard. So what we actually had to do was go in and cut those wires. Now, it didn't matter that, they just were hanging out or whatever, just as long as they weren't connected to the ground. So I went in and cut those wires. Here's a video of that. Now once those wires were cut, we were able to just install the board as normal and then hook it up to the JAMMA wiring harness, screw it to the side of the cabinet, And I think we're about ready to turn it on, guys. Now here's the board mounted to the side of the cabinet if you guys want to see it real quick. Okay guys, well I'm excited. Let's go ahead and turn it on and see if we've got things working. Okay, so our marquee lights up just like before, so that hasn't changed, that's a good thing. Okay, it's taking a minute, getting a little nervous. Oh, check it out. Okay, so we have the Game Elf logo now on the screen. That's a good sign. Hopefully we'll get the menu pretty quick here. Okay. Okay, there we go. Now guys, it looks like we've got everything up. This looks great. We're doing really good. But there's a couple of things. One, this was set to free play, this game originally. So we're going to have to go into the menu and change that. Plus you'll notice that this cabinet only has 3 buttons. And there are some games that use 4. So we're going to go in and disable those. So let's walk you through going through the test menu real quick and see if we can't get some of these just little itty bitty issues resolved at this point. Okay guys, so we have flipped the test switch on the cabinet. I'm going to turn it back on. So this time when the cabinet comes up, it should come up in test mode, and we're just going to go through and change a couple of things. It's going to take just a second. Now, according to the old JAMMAboards.com site, there's only one game that uses more than 3 buttons, and that's Vanguard. So we're going to make sure that we go in and we disable Vanguard just because we don't want people getting confused if they can play it or not. Plus, we are going to disable all of the adult games on the board. A lot of you may not realize that there are some adult games, and so we're going to go in and disable those. Plus, we're going to set it to free play. Once we do that, we should be good to go. Now, even though the screen is displaying, kind of, 90 degrees at an angle, the down arrow actually moves down the menu, okay? Just like as if it was a horizontal monitor. And so we're gonna keep that in mind. We're gonna come here. We're gonna go into coin settings real quick, and it says press 1 player to enter. And you'll see that number 3 is the free play mode. And so all we're gonna have to do, it says 1 player stay to change, so that's our C button. You'll see that it changed to yes, 1 player start to save. Okay, so we should be in free play mode now. 1 player A to continue, that's the red button. Okay, so there we go. So now we're going to go in and we're going to change the games, but that's actually in a different menu. So we're going to take a moment here to get out of this, and then we'll go back to the other menu. Okay guys, in order to edit the game list, we have to go to our system mode. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit different. So if we go to the service menu here, and it says system mode, we're going to actually change that over, and you'll see here 1 player C. We're going to change that to configure and edit games. Okay, now once we do that, we're going to save it. We're going to press 1 player A, and then we're going to exit to the game. Okay, so this is our sub-menu for editing the games. We're going to go to Edit Game List. Okay, here we go. So here's the games that we have. Now you'll see here it gives us the controls. We can show or hide, show all, hide all, set game. And so A is what we're going to be using for most of these. Now we do need to find Vanguard. That's going to be one of the ones that we're going to find first, okay? So let me see if I can get the game list out here. Okay. Okay guys, well I did some research online, and it turns out that not all of these 412-in-1 boards have Vanguard on them. So in this particular case, we won't need to disable that game. But what we will disable are the adult games. And so I have this list here from aceamusements.us. I'll go ahead and go through it here real quick. So it says number 89 needs to be disabled. So we'll go to 89. Okay, and it says Block Gal. So we're gonna hit the 1 player A button to disable that, and you'll see that it no longer has the asterisk beside it. That tells us it's disabled. Number 189. And I passed it. There it is. We're going to disable that one. And then number 195. Perestroika Girls, it looks like. We're going to disable that one. 268 would be the next one on the list, so we're going to go 268. And you guys can do this with any individual games that you want. So Cutie Q. 390, Playgirls 2, we're going to disable. Yeah, if you guys want to disable other games, you're more than welcome to. 391 we're going to disable. 402 we're going to disable. Fantasia. We're going to do Fantasia 95 as well, we're going to disable. Gallows Panic at 404 we're going to disable. New Fantasia we're going to disable. And then Supermodel we're going to disable. So all of those are good. We're going to hit start to save and quit. And it says one player A, save and quit. And that's what we're going to do. Okay, so that should take care of all the start menu modifications. Let's just see if we can play a game real quick. Okay, we're going to go exit. Now it might kick us out to the test menu. We might have to turn off and on the game again. Nope. Oh, let's see. Yeah, it might kick us back out to the test menu real quick. Yeah, I was about to say. Okay, so what we're going to do is, now that we've saved, we're going to turn it off. We're going to turn off the test mode switch in our cabinet. Give it a second, and we're going to turn it back on. And we should be in free play mode, and we should no longer have the adult games enabled. And we'll check that out real quick. Oh, looks like we're on this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and hit one player A to get out. Oh, you know what? I think we're going to have to go back into the test mode, right? We'll see. Okay, here we go. So let's go down to 89. Let's see if it's... 89 is gone, you'll notice, so we no longer have the adult games. All the rest of them should have taken then. And it looks like we are on free play. So just to make sure that we're working, we're going to play a game of... let's try Galaga. And you'll see here it says... player 1 start to play, player 1 C for help. So... I'm probably going to do a little bit of monitor work, but it won't be too bad. So let's go exit game. And I think this is because we still have that mode on. So let me go back in. We're just going to play it real quick. Switch on the board. It's not hard to get to from this angle, and so we're going to hit that real quick. It's on the inside of the cabinet, and I'll show you guys this here in a second. Let's see. Yeah, it's all the way up. Let's see. Better. There we go. Right closer to what they're looking for. There we go. Okay, so we have the volume where we want it, and I'll show you guys how to do that here in a second. Looks like everything's playing pretty well. We'll make some adjustments to the monitor, like I said. But overall, playing pretty good. So we're going to come back out though. There is one thing that I do want to show you guys, because this one does have a trackball on it, and the wiring is a little bit different for the trackball, and we'll show you that here in a second. Now, one of the things I did want to show you guys is that we do need to get it out of that edit games mode. And so if we go back to service, we go to config edit games, we can change that back to normal play, which is what we want. Hit start to save our settings, we're done, one player to continue, and then we can exit out. Now we will have to flip the switch and everything just to make sure those settings hold, but we should be okay going from there. So. Okay guys, so at this point we're feeling really good about this game, right? We got the game up, I tweaked the monitor, I disabled the adult games, we would have disabled Vanguard, but we didn't find it in the list. So basically we've got everything working, except for one thing, the trackball. See, the trackball's not wired like it is on the 60-in-1, and so if I went in and tried to play Centipede right now, I would get nothing, okay? And so what we actually have to do is we have to change that, okay? On the 412-in-1 board, there's a connector for the trackball, okay? And so what you need to do when you buy your 412-in-1 board is get a trackball harness if you have a trackball. Okay, this hooks up directly into that connector and gives you connectors for each of the trackball connections. So you'll see here they're actually labeled. This is a one-player Y-axis, this is a two-player Y-axis, one-player X-axis, and two-player X-axis. Now we only have one trackball, so the two-player ones won't be necessary. But the one-player ones we should be able to hook up and get that trackball working. Okay guys, so here we have our trackball and our control panel. And here's our wiring harness coming from the board. Now we want to make sure that we have the one-player ones, because those are the ones we're going to hook up. Now you'll notice that, it's got a connector here and a connector over here. And what I like to do is I'll play with the trackball and see which way kind of moves which. So when we're moving the trackball, obviously the Y is usually the up and down, the X is the left or right. And so if I see the wheel flying whenever I go up and down, that usually is a good sign that we're on the Y-axis. And so this one looks like the Y, so I'm going to unconnect it from the connector here. And I'm going to hook up the one-player Y, which is this one it looks like. We'll double check because it says the other one's X. And we're just going to put it in that same connector here. So we're going to disconnect that one and connect up this one. Now if you want to, this one looks like it actually has a harness for that, so we might disconnect that harness just so we don't get confused as to which one's which. Okay, so then we're going to disconnect this one over here, which we're going to assume is the X. Now if you get these swapped, it's not a big deal because they are keyed. It just means your up will go down and your left will go right, kind of thing. Or your up will go left and your down will go right kind of thing. And so it's not a huge deal if you get them mixed up, but it is nice to get them right the first time. That way you don't have to do it again. And this one's a little tricky on this control panel, but I think we can slip it on there. It'll take me just a second. I want to make sure we get all those pins. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of work to get all those pins on there. You don't want to miss a pin because it can be very difficult if you do. You don't want to bend pins. That's a big deal too. So, okay. And this one's being a little bit difficult, but I think we almost got him. Every time I get him on there, it's hard to push him. Okay. I think that's it. Yeah, it feels like it. I'm going to push, and then it snaps right on. So these extra wires that we have here, you guys can bundle them. Of course, it looks like this one actually has a harness and we could cut. So we might actually end up doing that, or we might bundle them on the inside. We might want to go back to the 61 at some point. This customer might not like the emulation on this board. I mean, it's not uncommon that we see that a lot. So if you've got some nippy cutters, you can always kind of cut those off there, and that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to cut that harness off there. There we go. And so this one's kind of out of play, and we can pull that too. And so what we'll probably do is we'll bundle this harness up, so we know that now that's no longer in use, and we have the new one hooked up in its place. So yeah, I don't have really table work on, guys, so please forgive that. But overall, it should not be too hard for you to figure it out. So if you have any problems, you can let us know. Of course, email us, and we'll help you out with which one's which, but hopefully we can play some Centipede now. About to go back into the menu and see if we can. Okay guys, so we got the trackball all set up and we got it wired up, but we really need to test it, right, just to make sure it's working properly. So unlike the 16-1, I believe that the 412-1 only works on games that originally had a trackball, maybe some that had a spinner as well. So in order to really test it, we need to probably go into Centipede or Millipede, and so we'll bring up Millipede real quick. So guys, it looks like that about finishes up our project. We were able to take out the old 16-1 board after doing some testing, making sure it wasn't working, put in the new 412-1 board. Then we also snipped the pin 27 from the JAMMA harness to make sure we didn't have the ground there. Hooked it up, got everything working, adjusted our games list, adjusted the volume on the game, worked on the monitor, and wired up the trackball, and everything seems to be working now. So I'm going to call this project complete. Okay guys, well it pretty much looks like this project's done. We were able to basically remove a bad 60-1 board and replace it with a nice 412-1 board, basically by just changing up the wiring a little bit and making sure that we had the games that we wanted disabled. So we're in really good shape here. We're going to call this project done. I'm sure that the owner will be super excited to have this game back up and running. And guys, remember, if you have any questions about this or any of our videos, videos or content on our website, please email us. You guys can always send us email. We do have a voicemail line. We're not as good about getting back to voicemail, but we will try to get back to you when we have some time. But you guys can always email us, probably the best way to get a hold of us, or visit our Facebook page. We've got some great information there as well, and some great people answering questions to help you out. And of course, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We really do appreciate it. Hopefully you learned a little something about taking a 60 in 1, making it a 412 in 1. And again, if you guys have any questions, please let us know. Remember, here at Arcade Repair Tips, when we fix the game, we play the game. You take care, everybody.